And we are, wait a minute, okay, never mind. Okay, looks like we are live, I think. Yes, I think we are. Woo, okay. All right, welcome back, everyone. We're on week 12 of Confidence Strategies 101. Thanks for hanging with us tonight. I'm Carmen Milagro, confidence strategist, CBD educator, entrepreneur artist, behavioral coach. And for those of you that don't know, I have dabbled here and there a little bit in the music world. And thanks to our guest tonight, I might be heading back in that direction a little bit. So anyway, that's another show. We are going to have a great show this week, in my opinion, of course. We're shining our spotlight on a very, very unique individual. He has the vision, the creativity, the drive, the discipline, the entrepreneurial mindset, although I don't know if that's what he would call it, but that's how I see it. He's got incredible energy. He's a Grammy-winning artist. Let's see, he's insanely talented as a drummer and percussionist. He's contributed to many genres: jazz, hip hop, Latin, rock, metal, ambient, you name it. He's also producing and creating new projects. And he's also working on films. He's always pushing the envelope in more ways than one. And he's always looking out for his global community. But first, each week, sharing the small screen with me, we have, take it away.
How are you? Yes. I'm over here going over all my notes and just making sure that we're all good. And we're always experimenting and working on new stuff to try to make sure that our show gets better and better every week. So yes, right. I'm Mauricio Mejia. I'm a Silicon Valley entrepreneur, partner in crime here with Carmen Milagro. And, we bring you the show because we want to bring talented minds and at the same time talk about our experiences in our own differences in our own world. And last couple of weeks we've been talking about bringing on the best coaches, and then why it's important to have some of the best coaches around you, and then at the same time creating a pipeline for our so that we can refer to other people in case we're not the ones that match. Last couple of weeks we've had Chester Santos. He's a memory coach. We had Moni of Moni Lane. We had Megan Metcalf with LLS. And last week we had Charleston Pierce, modeling coach. We didn't get to see his look, but we made it happen. We made it happen. The show must go on. So we
live shares.
Yeah. We do this every Tuesday, and it's at 7 p.m. And we continue to just, again, bring you discussions that are relevant to the current world and some of the stuff that has affected us in business in the past. And, it's just part of the entrepreneur life. So I'm excited about today's guest because I got to learn a little bit of some history and got to, dig a little bit. Obviously, we want to know who we're talking. For me, at least, you have a very close and intimate relationship with this person. But I'm excited because we're gonna make this thing happen. So we want everyone to make sure to stay on, and you don't want to miss any minute of the show. So
you don't want to miss this. I'm telling you right now. So that's right. We have a guest and who is so special. He's such a great friend of mine. He's traveled all over the world on his own tours, but also with a legend. I can't talk today. I'm so excited. With a legendary rock band. I think some of you may have heard of it. I don't know. I just adore him, right? And I can't wait to introduce him to you all. He's one of my dearest friends. He's my confidant. He's a matchmaker. He introduced me to my best girlfriend in the whole world. He's an instructor and a coach as well. He's a cool cat. He's a mentor. He's a role model. And most certainly an exemplary human being, which is just one of the reasons why he's here tonight. He's someone who never shies away from speaking his mind. I think I got that all covered. And with that, I would love to please have you all welcome Mr. Will Calhoun. Will, welcome.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
That was part 2, by the way.
I'm gonna send a copy to my mom just for a reference. So thank you very much.
Yeah, well, you got like a long introduction twice in the beginning of the show, so I'm like, all right, this is how we do it. So
How are you, brother? How are you doing?
good. I'm excited. Like I said earlier backstage, I'm excited to learn more and just hear about your journey. Obviously, you got a great path. You've come a long way, and I think
Thank
whether it's in music or entertainment or entrepreneurship, there's always a journey in our path. Nothing is easy, and if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. I like it because I was in the entertainment industry for 25 years, but I was on the other side. I wasn't on the musician side. I was on the production, on the nightclub side, or on the concert side where we were producing shows. So we have our own form of art as well because it takes magic. With all the elements, we come together and we make magic happen. So I have a deep appreciation for live music and for entertainment. So I'm excited to hear some of the stories you'll share with us tonight.
Absolutely. Well, before I forget, happy 30th Time's Up anniversary to you and Doug and Corey and Vernon. That's incredible. That's a milestone.
It is. It is.
To say the least.
A full milestone, but a difficult one to accept in that the lyrics for a lot of that music, unfortunately, is very relevant to what's sort of happened in the last 60 or 90 days
Exactly.
in this country. So we wrote that music in 1990 and a little bit earlier, and it's relevant now. And thank you very much for that. We all appreciate it. I will mention to the lads that you send your anniversary.
I would also love for them to come on the show because we love sharing the different perspectives because we all might be on a similar path, but we don't have all the same, experience to share because we're viewing it from our own lens. I woke up today so excited that you were going to be on the show. And then somewhere around 2:00, I got really nervous.
You?
And I haven't, yes. I'm like, oh my gosh, what if this goes wrong? I did all that, but you and I have had some really incredible conversations throughout all the years that we've known each other. We've tackled a lot of difficult topics between you and I and our perspectives. And well, I know some people don't know that you were born in Brooklyn, but you grew up in the Bronx. Yeah, right.
That's correct. You're the first one to get it right.
Well, there's a debate about that because I've heard another interview and I heard you debating about that. So, you talk about Brooklyn and the Bronx, and people are watching on the East Coast. They might have some different opinions here. So be careful.
Mauricio, you got a point. Like if my Brooklyn family is watching, they're like, you better say Brooklyn. And my mom or my family. But as I said in the previous interview, I was born in a hospital in Brooklyn, and I got a couple of smacks on the behind. Once I made some noise, I got wrapped up in a towel. I got deported north to the Bronx, and I was just a passenger on that trip. I had no jurisdiction over wanting to stay or not. So, in terms of arrival time and space, it's Brooklyn, yes. But the Bronx is where the seeds sort of went into the soil, and it was the beginnings of what up to this point for me has been a fabulous life with beautiful neighbors and great people and challenging school systems and it's basically I call the Bronx God's country because it's where I gained all my wisdom and I got all my weapons, and I mean that in a positive way, and how to defend myself in the world, and also how to help people, how to assist people. And how to be a mentor, and how to be someone's friend, how to be good ears to listen to what someone has to say. And with the Bronx spider sense is being able to feel things in a room or in a conversation where you can tell that I can get ready to become very positive, or they're going to become, as the English say, pear-shaped. So the Bronx did give me all that love and more.
I always share with people too. I didn't born in San Francisco, raised in Los Angeles. It wasn't, but my mom made that choice and then moved back to the Bay Area and educated here in the Silicon Valley. So I kind of have the best of all three major cities, and I got my street skills in LA. I was born in a classy city like San Francisco, and now I'm in a global destination like Silicon Valley. So definitely got a lot in me.
I love San Francisco.
All right.
It's my weakness. It's my almost moved to city, but it still may not be too late. I'll leave it there. I love San Francisco.
Well, you know, Carrie and I are trying to get you out here, Will.
I know.
So let's start a little bit, where you grew up, growing up in the way that you did. And the reason why we like to talk about this part of everybody's story whenever we can is because it's really nice to show people that whether you're in music or in business or whatever it is that you're doing, that we all have common experiences, that we all share certain qualities of life. And I would love for you to share with us in your own words, who had the greatest impact nurturing your spirit as a young man, as a young boy. And what I mean by that is, who do you give the most credit to for helping you with your sense of self, with your self-confidence, and how did they do that for you? Or have you always had a healthy, sense of self? Because I know you do, which is great. So I think for everyone listening and tuning in, I think that's something that they would like to know.
Sure. Well, my mom, hands down. And I grew up in a single parent home. My father and my mother started separating shortly after I was born. Maybe it started before. Who knows? I can't put the flashlight on that. But by far it was her. She still is the greatest force in my life. She's 95 now, and still checks on me and still tells me to make sure I have a schedule and write things down and remember things. So I have a joke about it with my brother and sister. I'm the youngest of three, but it's not a joke. And I always say, if I read all the books she told me to read, when she told me to read them, I'd be a lot further along. I'd be a better human being. If I did all the things she told me to do when she said it. But she single-handedly, to me, is and still is my power source. She taught me, how to fight back. She was a Dr. King fan, and I was a Malcolm X fan. So we had our little bit of not small differences there, but the lessons were powerful. I think maybe I received no more than 4 or 5 spankings. And after my 5th one, I said, okay, I get it. You're the boss, and I listen to what you say, and there's no reason for me not to listen because I don't like getting spanked. So basically, I got to listen to you. By far her. She did a lot of mental challenges and lessons for me. And to give you an example, when I did something wrong, she would go to work in the summertime. She worked in the summer as well. And her educational background, she has 2 master's degrees and a PhD. So education was very serious with her. The church was very serious with her. Respect for our neighbors. We had Latin neighbors, people from the Caribbean. I grew up in the 60s, so we had a lot of families moving from Puerto Rico, from Dominican Republic, from Haiti, from some even from Cuba. And we had Italians and Irish and Jews in the area too. But any one of my friends were able to come over. I wasn't allowed to speak negatively about any culture, anyone using slang. Everything had to be academic in the house. When we talk about sex, fine. Use the proper terminology. No slang in the house. Right. So she, in some aspects too, became my best friend because it was so open and so real. That's why I'm the way that I am. And I can come to her and talk to her about anything. But to give you a small example, she went to work one day and I decided I was going to go out and do a couple of things that I shouldn't have done before my time. So she left me a schedule and she came home and said, so you went out and did those things? And I got busted. And I said, yes. She made me take out a piece of paper and a pen. She says, okay, I need a play-by-play on what I told you to do and then when you got off track, because I need to see like your attention span. So you woke up at 8 o'clock. What did you do at 8:05? What did you do at 8:30? And I was like, Mom, certainly you're joking. She's like, no. We're going to look at the schedule to see where you got off track. No spankings, no yelling. I want an academic exercise of you writing it out.
That's brilliant.
I was saying to myself, right? I mean, take my belt, I want to get this over with. She's like, no. Every, and it was one of the most powerful lessons I learned as a child because I did what she asked me to do till about 10:30, and then I did my own thing. And then she just wanted me to know, here's where after 10:30 you lose the plot. And she put that on my wall in my room as a child. And that was the last time I got off track. So I thought it was going to be like a 2-minute spanking. Thank you very much. You know, but it was a moment where when I left my room when she finished with that exercise, that changed my life forever. It did. So those are I was 8 or 9 years old, something like that. So that's like a small example of how powerful things were. And then there's like an emotional side when I was in college, at Berkeley College of Music, and I was broke as I don't know what. And I never told my mom I was broke, and I was hustling and doing gigs and playing around town. And there was one time, Carmen, I was just spent. I had nothing. 2 gigs were canceled. I had no money in the bank. And my mother, and any parent can read your vibe, you know. And I called her to say, hey, how's it going? And she said, what's wrong? You know. Yeah. And I remember her getting on the Greyhound bus, coming to Boston from New York. I met her at the bus station. She gave me cash. And I said, Mom, let's come to this campus. And she said, no. I'm going to get on the next bus to go back to Boston. I just wanted to get, and Carmen, from that day on, I said, I will never screw up in school. I'm going to practice as hard as a mofo. I'm never going to be broke. I'm going to do extra gigs. If I got to work in a hotel, like her doing that and staring at her in the bus station, like I wanted her to leave before me. I said, you go. She said, no, you go. And I said, no. And I watched her stand there, and I was walking away to go back to school with that $60 or whatever it was she gave me. That was it. I'm like, everything is gonna be fine now. I'm gonna bust my ass and I'm gonna work hard, because that her doing that to me I was gutted actually. I didn't want her to get on the bus. I felt cheated a little bit as a young man. I was like, my mom's coming up here to give me money, like, you know. Yeah. I couldn't ask the guy in the deli to borrow some money from him, you know. But she came up and she said, no, here. And that was another kind of, as a young adult, game changer in my life. So hands down, it was her. I talked to her about everything, my record deals, even though she doesn't understand the music business. She's so kind of humanitarianly sound. She's just really like a sound, salt of the earth kind of a person. So it didn't matter what the subject matter was. She was going to give me some really sound, basic advice. And hands down, I would say, from those 2 examples and more, it's definitely her.
I love. Thank you for sharing these examples that you just, because it really resonates with, you know, that sort of tough love, but then that comfort nurturing, which is, in my opinion, what mentors and coaches should be doing for everyone that they work with or that they're helping, especially kids. You know, you and I work with a lot of kids in music, and I think that's another thing that we all have in common is that each of us in our own journey, it's mom. It's my mom, Mauricio's mom. You know, Mauricio. I know you talked about your mom several times on the show, and so I'm gonna lob it over to you, Mauricio. I know you have a couple of questions as well.
Yeah. No, well, I love listening, Will, to your story. You know, I give my credit. You know, a lot of my success, I dedicated it to my mother, and I also, you know, I learned a lot from her. My mom wasn't. I grew up with a single mom, so for me, it was one of those things that, you know, we were kids from the streets. You know, we were latch kids. You know, late mid '80s, or you know, you guys were in your heydays in the '80s. I'm not trying to date myself here, but I'm the baby of the group here. So, but no, I just. But you know what? Music was a part of my life at a very young age. I remember my first music video on MTV was Billy Idol, 1984, when MTV hit the TV, and I just remember you know, music was my like savior while my mother wasn't around, so that was a big influence in me. But one of the questions that we, you know, want to know, and something that we've learned, or that, you know, kind of I've learned, is that, you know, people think that you have to start early or super young to be success at anything, or music or business. And I've learned recently that you started playing the drums until when you were 16, for which, you know, and again, in the music industry, that might be sometimes too late. How old or how did you catch up to those that started playing earlier than you? And then what would you say to the people of those kinds that would set those kind of limitations on themselves?
It's a great question. I mean, one of the things I had to learn, Mauricio, was time, everybody's time. And I spent some time in the outback of Australia, fortunately, with a few different Aboriginal tribes. And one of the things one of the elders told me is, time is let me get my hands on the screen right. Time is here and everything in between.
That's right.
And that's it. So that simply means, Mauricio, you start when I start, Carmen starts when she starts, and that's what that time is. So 16 felt late in the music game, yes, but I had a lot of really beautiful people to encourage me. But I was on the hustle. I did feel behind the eight ball. I had an older brother, Mauricio, who was a prodigy. So I was intimidated to play because when you have an older brother, you guys fight. And my brother and I love each other probably more now than we did then. But I had incredible musician neighbors, two I consider to be superstars. One is Raymond Chu, Ray Chu. Ray Chu lived in his backyard faced my backyard, and when he was 18 years old or 17, he finished high school. He went on the road to become the musical director for Ashford and Simpson. And then there was a great Steve Jordan, great producer and drummer who lived 2 blocks away from me. And all these guys were at the house. And Steve went on to be the NBC Orchestra on Saturday Night Live when he was around 19 years old. So one of the things I discovered, Mauricio, was it was possible, first of all. It wasn't far away because my neighbors and my friends and our parents were all cool. So yes, I felt it was late. My advice is you have to put your time in. There's that saying, you're going to get out of it what you put into it, and that's real. Also, Mauricio, I think we're students for life. If we're artists and we're human beings,
That gave me chills. Give me chills.
We're students for life. So I'm learning now. I still study now. I still practice things that I practiced when I was 16 and 17. So it's not based so much on the time, is what you do with the time. Right. If you're playing a sport game and there's 2 minutes left or there's 4 minutes left in the game and you're losing, it's not that there's 2 minutes or 4 minutes left in the game. What are you going to do with those 2 or 4 minutes? Is whether it's going to determine whether they're going to win or lose. You can give up, you can fight back, you can realize I was making these mistakes, and now so yes, I really focused at that time. I got a private teacher. I was in the clubs all the time. I was studying records. I was trying to transcribe. I jumped into the pool unprepared, but not afraid.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love that. Jump into the pool, unprepared, but not afraid. Love it. Okay, I'm going to quote you on that.
I always believe that when you get into things, I mean, well, I as a kid, I had no fear. I mean, growing up in the streets, you have to have no fear, because if you have fear, it's the survival of the fittest on the streets. The streets know the fear, and if you're afraid, then the next guy, the kid that can sense it or smell your fear, will take advantage. Just like anything in business, you got to take risk in music, in the industry, and everything that we do. You have to take that risk in order to be, to find out if there's going to be success at the end of each try. So I get it. The patterns are not different. We're just living in different times and different eras, but it seems like it's a cyclical pattern. I think music is cyclical as well, just like the entertainment industry. It goes through its peaks and valleys, and then I think we're going to see a big during this time, and I think we're going to start seeing where a lot of classics, a lot of old school music, or a lot of the music from the past is going to resurrect. But it's no different than when we were in the 90s. We were playing the late 70s and early 80s. And then in 2000s, we're playing late 80s and then early 90s or mid 90s. And then in 2000 or 2010, so we're always carrying that generation, the past generations forward. So I think, though, now we're going to really see with the millennials, because they don't know how to touch and feel like classic stuff or what it sounds. I mean, everything is so electronic. So I think live music is going to have a big comeback once we get past this COVID era. So I think that there's going to be an opportunity for some big reunions and some big opportunities with bands to come together. And you're already starting to see it with some of these old classic bands, or classic bands, period, that paved the way for the newer generation. So Super exciting. Exciting.
Yeah.
Hopefully so.
Well, and piggyback on, I'd like to piggyback on what we were talking about as well. Well, you did this incredible, you know, I follow you, of course, and I try to watch as much as I can, the Sabian interviews and all that. But the last one that I saw was the one that you did with Aubrey Dale.
Oh yeah, Aubrey, yes.
And yes, and what I loved about what we were just talking about, where you said you jumped in unprepared but unafraid to do what you were going to do. I want to reiterate something because, again, depending on who you are and the discipline that you have and the drive that you have, anything is possible. Because within about 3 years, correct me if I'm wrong, here you said you just started learning how to play the drums at 16, and then 3 years later, you're playing with an American icon. That doesn't just happen because, you know, you were just kind of, I think I'll give this a try. Right? I mean, could you tell us a little bit about that experience? And specifically what I was really wanting to focus on is who was that American icon? And what did he say to you when you pulled a, how shall I put it, a youngster move, a youngster musician move, where you ditched, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to be telling, you know, any tales out of school, but I think you ditched his gig to go take another gig, but it actually has a good ending.
It does. Well, okay, a couple of things. The icon is Mr. Harry Belafonte. And I was studying with, I think, one of the best drum set teachers in the world, Mr. Kenwood Denard. And Kenwood was playing with Harry Belafonte at that time and was going to move on. And Kenwood recommended me to audition for Harry Belafonte, as I was a student of his and I was shy to go down there and do it, and I felt like I wasn't ready. And Kenwood said, come on down, and you know, and in the interview, it's true, I was in the hospital, I had a stomach virus, and I was in the hospital, and I was so excited about the call. My sister called me. It was my third day in the hospital. The first 2 days was getting your stomach pumped and blah, blah, blah. And the third day was rest. So on the third day, my sister called me saying, some guy named Richard Cummings, a musical director, called Harry Belafonte, there's an audition. And I said, really? So I checked myself out of the hospital. I lost about 12 pounds during that time. I took my clothes out of the closet. I didn't have a stick bag. I just took the train down from the hospital. I still had the bloody bracelet on with my name on it, you know, the hospital bracelet. And I went into this audition, and I didn't want to tell anybody. I felt like here's a good opportunity. And Kenwood was in the hallway, and he said, hey, man, you know, so here's the book, man. And let me just show you a quick couple of things. And this and that. And the drum book had 4 or 5 other drummers' notes on it. So as I was trying to listen to Kenwood while reading, like, Psalms, this that says Mozambique. Which one is it? You'll hear it. You'll hear it. You know, that's the always line. You'll hear it.
Right, of course, the famous "You'll hear it."
It was it was a bit nerve-wracking, but it was great because Harry only wanted to do 10 bars of that. Okay, next song, 5 bars, and I was trying to do the whole chart, and he only wanted to hear the intro and my feel. Next, okay, this song has a sax solo. Let's do the intro and the sax solo. Next. So it was really like this. Got the gig, everything shockingly. I'm 19, I'm a little bit green. I'm very green. And Mauricio, basically, we had our first gig, first tour. And I didn't ditch the gig like I was cutting out on his gig. We had a weekend off. And Living Color was just starting to get a little burn in town. And we kind of had the CBGB's gig, which is big for us. And record companies were starting to come see us. So I didn't even tell the guys I was playing with Harry Belafonte. I just said I'm out of town. So I booked a small flight. It was, I don't know, we were in Buffalo, New York or something like that. And I booked the flight. I get to the airport, and the lady tells me my ticket's bumped up to first class. And I'm thinking to myself, you have the wrong guy. I paid like $175. That can't be me. She goes, no. So I get on the plane, and there's a New York Times like this covering the journal. I just see their hands, and he's on the aisle, and I say, "Excuse me, sir," and he pulls a newspaper down, and it's Harry, and I'm ready to piss on myself, to be honest. So I didn't know he was a joker either. I didn't know. I never saw him like so. I'm sitting next to him. The flight's not long. Incredibly uncomfortable. I have a knot in my stomach, and he waits until the plane starts to land to ask me, "So, Will, where are you going?" And I figured, coming from my mom's vibe, honestly, I'm gonna look, man. If I'm gonna get fired, let me just tell him the truth. So, I'm going to play with this band I play with called Living Color, and I'm gonna play CBGBs. And he just said, "Oh, do you record your shows?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Okay, let me hear the tape when you get back." And I was like, "Sure." Thinking to myself, on the way back, it's going to be, would you like an aisle or a window to fly back home to get kicked off the tour? I fly back. He bumps me up again on his flight to first class. So I'm sitting with him. He doesn't say anything. We land. We do the gig the first night, nothing. Second night, it's a storm. We can't fly. We have to drive the bus into Canada. And Harry gets on the speaker microphone and he goes, "Hey, Will, you got that tape?" And I'm 19. Everybody else is 35. They're looking at me like, "What the hell is your problem, man?" The band's vibing me heavily. They were trying to bust my balls, Mauricio, most of the time. And it was fun, I was trying to eat alone so I can get some, and that everyone they would take turns. Like the horn player would come over, take a napkin, open it, take a Sharpie. "Hey, check this out, Will. My solo, play this pattern. All right?" And I would say, "Sure, man." Start eating some more. The bass player, "Hey, man, don't rush when I'm the intro, man. You're rushing it." "Okay, no problem, man." The conga player, "Look, man, the cascara is not correct, man. It's not right. In the egg, you don't have the accent." And they would write the whole cascara on the thing with the accent. Put it there. This is Afro-Cuban, man. It's not, it's not funk, man. Come on, play the bell properly. So I had all of this happening on top of that. So they turned around and they vibed me like, "How dare you go to New York?" So it's pouring down raining. It's a thunderstorm. And I said, "Mr. Belafonte, my tape is in the luggage under the bus." He says, "Okay." 5 minutes later, the bus slows down and the bus stops. And then he asked me to go get the tape. So I had the tape on me and I had to put the tape in my pocket like I was really under the bus. I go under the bus, get soaked, come out, hand him the tape. And then I know that I'm fired now. So I just said, "Look, please don't play it on the bus." In the next 2 days, he wasn't as warm and friendly as he normally is. And on the third day, he said, come into my dressing room and talk to you." And I did. And he said, basically, "I heard the tape, and this is an incredible band with an incredible message, and you're going to have to do this." And he talked to me about finances and investments and signing my own checks, watching my percentages, publishing my music. He gave me so many beautiful things to prepare myself for. And he told me some really dark things about the industry that all I had a chance to actually see, but thank God he told me first. And then I walked away from that feeling like if Harry Belafonte can sanction Living Color, then the band's gonna have to happen. And it did. So it wound up being a beautiful thing. And the silver lining in that story was just honesty.
Right.
It was just that, I didn't want to be as him. I didn't want to be as the guys in Living Color. If the band told me you're out because you're with Belafonte, I was just ready to deal with everything honestly, because if I deal with it honestly, I can walk away from it and not feel hurt, or I didn't lie to someone. It's like, here's what it is. If I get fired for being honest, I look at that as not my fault.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, and it's such an incredible, because the incredible part to me is that it's twofold, right? Not only were you dealing in an integrous way, you were being honest. You were young, but you still had that sense of self to just go, okay, I'm going to take it. I'm going to let the chips, fall where they may. But on the other side of that, the beauty that I see in this story, and the reason why I wanted to, to really have you embellish it a little bit more for us, is because that's the role of a mentor. That's the role of someone who genuinely cares about your success. A coach, a role model, someone like that. Of course, we are talking about an American icon, and we're talking to a legendary drummer. But back then, you hadn't become that legendary drummer yet.
No, not even close.
And so that, what I love about the story is both sides of this. A young person choosing a certain way to do things, and an elder choosing a way to encourage you, to let you fly. He knew that this was what your destiny was, and he wasn't going to F that up for you.
Yes.
That's what I love about that.
Thank you. He was very, and we talked afterwards, and I always thanked him in magazines. He would always joke and ask me, what is it like? How does it, he was, to him, it was no big deal. But yes, Harry, thank God, that was my first real professional gig, because I learned a lot of things from Harry by watching how to be a band leader, how to be the leader of an organization. In my opinion, he respected everyone in that organization. I never saw him talk down to anyone. I never saw him raise his voice at anyone. Issues, he would sit down with you, man to man, like anything. I saw it. He would always say, come talk to me. He was open. Some guys were having marital issues. He was open to say, hey, man, what's going on? So having someone like that on tour, which all three of us have been involved in some type of production or tour. And when you're in those productions, a lot of times people don't care how you feel or how you're living or what your issues are. Show up, do what you have to do, and get out of here. And if you can have a little extra love or a little pat on the back or a little mentoring or a little, hey, let's have a coffee or meet me for breakfast tomorrow morning. Or someone says, you're not playing this part right, Mauricio, check this out, man. After the gig, come to sound check early, and let me show you the vibe, and let's spend some time on it, or check out these tapes, or go online. Anything like that is so profound, and I think it inspires. But I just wasn't afraid, because I did think, Carmen, I was going to get fired, and not very nicely fired, because I felt saying CBGBs was a bad word, and it's an alternative punk club, and I'm playing this develop. But he didn't care about any of that.
No.
The band did. The band was like, what the hell are you doing?
Right.
And it taught me a lesson. It taught me even a lesson about my artistry and to do what you like. And there's no such thing as styles in music. There's just things that you like to do. And if you like to do them, then to do them. And if you don't like them, you don't like them. You don't have to hate on them.
Right, exactly.
You can learn from everything. But that experience was, I can't explain to you how, to hear him say that to me in a dressing room, and he's listening to a board tape. But I walked out of that room a lot more confident than I walked in.
That's a huge gift.
Fear was kicking in. The butterflies were kicking in.
Yeah.
I love it. You say, and again, it resonates a lot with me, because again, you're from the entertainer side, the actual, you're the face. And I come from the back end side. I'm the producer, back end production, make sure that the people are happy. It takes a certain talent to also be that person in the back end. And just like a band, it takes a certain leadership and mentoring among the team or the group in order to keep everyone in check and everyone in harmony. It applies to it. I look at a band as like an organization. It's a business. Everyone has there's a CEO. Everyone has a different role in the group, and then it all comes together, and that's when the magic, that's when you guys produce magic. And then again, when you're dealing with a venue, you're dealing with other personalities, so you're dealing with another entity. So if there was that to teach, bands and groups, I mean, you see it. Once the bands, they're magical and they do great things together, and then, you get one personality, and then the band breaks up, and they want to be solo artists, and then every once in a while you get a lucky solo artist, and then what happens? They maybe they have one great album, and then the second and third albums are flops because that energy and that edge are no longer there. But then they come back. So it's really tough to be in your position. I've seen it too, even from the back end side. We have a great team, and we can look at each other, and we know how to run the venue and all that good stuff. We're all orchestrating. And then all of a sudden, one of the spokes falls off, and then now you start bumping. You're like, oh man, we're off. And then until you find that replacement, and then of course it's not the same. I always believe, like in business as well, when you start together, you end together, and when one breaks out, you gotta dissolve it all, because everyone together was the harmony of a band or a business entity. You can't once it starts to rock, you got to get ready. So I have a question, Carmen. I'm going to jump right in. They say, and I apply this to business as well. And you come from a group of talented and mastered musicians. They say in order, to master something, and again, this is statistics that they use. You got to do 10,000 hours worth of something that repetitively to master it. I used to go the other way. You have to do 10 years of something in order to master, but it can go either way. Um, how many hours have you put into your art, and at what point do you feel that you mastered it, or are you still continuing? You said earlier you were continuing to learn, and that gave me chills, because every day I learned. Today I learned a bunch of new things too. That just we're always learning. So for the people that are out there watching and listening to someone like with your experience, what is the magic? What do you think that is? 10,000 hours or more?
Yeah,
When you feel that you mastered it.
the great Max, and for those who don't know, he's I think one of the premier jazz drummers in that idiom. Max, when I first met Max Roach, I kind of asked Max that question, student kind of a way. Like, okay, Max, this and the hi-hat thing and the time. And he showed me some incredible things to practice. But he said, always remember, Will, you're a student for life. The instrument always wins. You're never defeated, but you're going to have a whole lot of fun trying.
Yeah.
For Max Rhodes to say that to you, leaving the room after he gave me these incredible, difficult exercises to do, and to have him say that to me was my first enlightenment to your question. The second one was while I was researching some very rare rhythms in Mali, in West Africa, I wanted to go to the special village to meet this master, and no one's allowed for me outside, and I'm an American. So I went like 4 times a year for 4 years to get to this place, and I was finally accepted in, or let in, I should say. And incredible beats for healthy pregnancies, beats for rain, beats for childbirth, beats for great harvest. The stuff was all wedding beats, all these incredible things I was learning from this family. The really heavy thing of that experience was they brought up another rhythm that I didn't hear of before, and they said, "Oh, there's an older guy up north who is the master of that." And his son was one of the guys teaching me about the other stuff I was trying to learn. So we went up to this village, and I wanted to meet his dad. And his dad was sick, and he was laying down in the bed, and he didn't play anymore. And we spoke briefly via translation. And when I left that situation, one of the most killing drummers that was out there at the time told me, "Oh, his father is still the master. Although he's laying in his bed and he can't play anymore. No one in this village or any villages south of here are allowed to say they're masters while he's still alive. You can't do it." So those were 2 experiences of understanding the 10,000 hours question you're asking me and the whole student piece. So, and he's not still the master because of what he can play. He's still the master for what he knows. And people still go to him for knowledge while he's laying down on his back, as I do. So for people who are listening, the 10,000 hours is actually a great metaphor for it, because it really is kind of like endless in a way. And my time personally, Mauricio, it's not over. I try to mix it up. It's never boring for me. I am still a child in that way. I can practice for hours and hours and hours, and you can slide a cheese sandwich under the door, and I'll be the happiest black man in America for that moment. So, sometimes the simple things in life, because what I'm getting out of that practice time, because you're not really practicing, you're really spiritually searching, and you're going into new lands in your spirit, and you're finding places that you didn't know existed. And when you leave that, it's just hours and hours and hours of practicing, you actually, I think, do become if not a better human being, a more understandable human being about life. Because not all artists are friendly and nice, and some people are rude and oily and swines, but they do great art. So you have to understand that it's the art that you attach yourself to, not the other things. But I've learned, like Mauricio, you talked about being away from it, the backside. I learned from watching some of these artists, because they're swines and they're not friendly sometimes, or they're going through things, and like it creates the great art. So I have to respect the outcome sometimes more than the process.
That's right.
Right. So that's kind of like my dealings with those hours and understanding that. And once you can, you're fine. But if you love art, if you love cinema, or you're a painter, or like you never write your last book or do your last dance or play your last, sing your last song. You never really do that. Even though, how many bands have you seen, Mauricio? It's our final tour. We're gonna do it. It's the final. I don't want to drop any names on this show, but you guys know that I've seen some of my bands do their last tours at least 4 times. So there is something in there spiritually, maybe that we don't even know about, that gets us to behave a certain way, or gets us to react as humans in a fashion. When we don't do it, we no longer behave in that way. It's like a shark that stops hunting. The animal's going to die.
Yeah.
Right?
So I know. I used to have a shark in my house, in my tank. I used to come home. I had a 350-gallon shark tank at home because I was crazy like that. And I say there's a post pre-2008 Mauricio and post 2008, and it's like a band. I was a rock star in my own version. I controlled my entertainment. I let who I wanted to come into my venue, and I got to enjoy the perks of it as well. So I was just so crazy. I had a shark in my home, and that shark, instead of me coming home and relaxing, it would make my heart race because the sucker kept moving back and forth, and he couldn't calm down. And then I'm like, why does he keep moving? Well, because he has gills. Hello, and if he stops, he dies. I'm like, oh man, this is a predatory tank. This is not good for my heart, and living that lifestyle was just nuts. But I agree with one of the things that you said, and it's today I posted. There's 2 posts that I listen to every morning. I like to feed my mind while I'm working out, and I start my daily routines. Whether it's meditating, reading, some scripture, reading something. One of the posts that I did today was fall in love with the instruction and the wisdom. So it's really interesting because, and it's a proverb. I heard today. I was listening to someone say it, and then someone today commented on it and said that it was a proverb from the book, and I was like, it's interesting. And then the next quote is wisdom preserved, and that's going to be for tomorrow. But wisdom preserves those who have it. And what you're saying is that you want to always hit that higher level, and you seek for that wisdom. And I think that what we've learned as artists, and as whether it's band or whatever, it's being in the entertainment, is that we reach a point in our lives where, at least for me, 2008, I think I reached such a huge where it's like the movie Rockstar. I'm sure, I don't know if you saw that one with Mark Wahlberg, where he goes through the sex, drugs, rock and roll, and then he looks at the young guy up on the stage, and he's like, you know what? Hey, he has the microphone, like, hey, it's your turn, because we get to a point where it's like, man, enough is enough, but what we want to seek though is the wisdom after. And I agree with you. We don't stop. I in my heart of hearts, I'm in other businesses right now, but I believe that I have one more in me, meaning one more venue. And I think it's just a matter of timing. I think that because I know a lot of big producers and people that continue to do the big concerts, I think that my opportunity is going to come. And I think that as things have slowed down, it gives me the opportunity to step back and look back and use my wisdom and say, all right, where's the opportunity? How do I jump in and then capitalize off of it? So I'm gonna, when I pass away, I'm telling everyone, I don't want you guys crying. I want you guys to celebrate and have a big party for me, because that's how I would want to end, is in a big rager, just like boom.
I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I don't want sad music. I want a mirror ball. I want some disco funk music. I want it to be a celebration, because I'll be watching everyone from above and saying, I'll be waiting for you guys because the party's going to start up here now. So I tell my boys, I go, guys, I got VIP seatings for you guys. Don't worry. I got you guys, because that's just the way I've always been. So, but I love it. I love what you're sharing with us.
Well, and you triggered something for me, actually, Mauricio, because it's something that I wanted to talk to you really about. I'm hearing an echo. I'm not sure.
Just came on. I don't know.
Okay, sorry about that.
My phone is off.
Oh, okay.
I turned my phone off. But go ahead.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. But one of the things that I was wanting to talk about is I just feel like innovation, you know, and a couple of guests on Mauricio's other show talked about innovation in music. And so I wanted to talk about an idea. I'm working on a patent. You know me. I'm working on a patent. I'm working with a designer, but that's a whole other thing. I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and Will, I know that we are taking up your time. It is 3 hours ahead. I assume that you have still not, like, you haven't become, going to bed early, but I want to be really respectful of your time. So this question sort of changes gears a little bit, and it was something. Well, let me preface this. Like, you and I have had conversations over the years, like I said, about like really deep stuff at 1 o'clock in the morning after your gig. We're always hungry. I'm always hungry, and we talk about all these things. You know, our upbringings and the things that we have in common and how we grew up. And even though we grew up on different, on the West Coast here, I grew up in San Francisco, and you grew up on the East Coast, that we had some very parallel things that we've shared, which unbeknownst to us. Although I will say, somebody has a birthday. Oh, 2 people have a birthdays coming up. We're only 8 days apart, literally. Oh, I'm older than you are. Hey, I just thought of that.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm older than you are. Oh, okay. But anyway, so sorry, I digress. But one of the conversations that I remember so vividly that you and I had was we were talking about how did we see each other? Like, how did we walk through life? And as a kid, I think I shared with you, but you weren't surprised, which is the funny part to me. The ironic part is I never thought of myself or defined myself by the color of my skin. I didn't think of myself as being Latina. I didn't think of myself as being Hispanic. I thought of myself as an artist. And I, for me, there is no color shade that's applied to that term when as a kid, you're defining yourself as an artist. And I remember you saying that you kind of had a similar situation, and then you were on that not the last Sabian interview, but the previous one that was, I think, about a month ago.
Yes.
I think, right? And something that you said on that interview was so profound to me, because you were able to articulate all of these emotions that I've been feeling, that I've been thinking about as we're witnessing the world just implode on itself. And I don't want to like butcher this, but what you said was, and I think it was like, it drilled down to the core of who you are and how I know you and how confident you are. You said that someone, and you're going to have to correct me, but someone who's judging you on the color of your skin, it's their problem. Racism is their issue, not mine.
Correct.
And I just wonder if you could expound on that, because to me, that spoke about the depth of your self-knowledge, the depth of your confidence in yourself.
Well, yeah, I've always felt that, and I was brought up that way. My grandparents were autonomous, and they were Southerners that grew up on a farm, and my grandfather, just to give you a little bit of context to that phrase, how I grew up every summer, and he had a very small house and maybe like 100 acres of land. So he believed in 1 or 2 pairs of shoes, 1 or 2 pairs of pants, 1 shirt, 1 or 2 shirts. And he said, whatever you have in your house, you don't use in the year, you don't need. So he had this very streamlined way of life, and he talked to us like adults all the time. I used to be frightened to walk past his bedroom because if the door was cracked and we would children walking by his room, he would take his cane or whatever and kick the door open, and he would go, "Who's on the dining? Who's on the corner? Who's the president of Bahrain? What's the?" I mean, he would just start asking us. We were kids, and we were children, and we were frozen. And he said, "If you don't understand the world, you're not going to go anywhere in life. You have to understand the world. So you don't know the answer to those things. Think about it, or write it down, and look it up." It was always terrifying to walk past his door. I tried to go by there when I knew he was sleeping. I'm saying that to say he talked to us really about life. And he didn't believe in desegregation. Not everybody may not agree with me, I'm about to say, but he didn't think that it was necessary for people to desegregate, because to him, African Americans already have power. Power is not a lot of money in the bank. Power isn't owning the town. Power isn't having an airline or a tire company or a sugar plantation. In his mind, power is here. And he used to tell us that he didn't believe in it. He loved Dr. King and Medgar Evers and these folks, but he used to tell us, and our parents didn't like that. He would talk to us like that. He said that that's not the way life really works. White people live in this town. They live across the road or down the street. And if I don't like them, if they don't like me, that's life. But I have my land. I do what I do, and I'm safe here. And if I have to protect myself in whatever way possible, I will. You're not going to convince someone to love you or like you. If to him, I'm not having anything of your own. So he didn't believe in the coffee shop thing. I'm not taking anything away from the civil rights struggle. And he disliked that strongly because he said they're selling you bad goods. You don't need civil rights. You need equal rights. You know, if you don't have a coffee, if you're going to go into a coffee shop and get beat up, then you have to build your own coffee shop. You don't have to go in there to prove to them you can drink coffee. If you want coffee, you should have your own coffee shop. You shouldn't have to go to someone else's. But you have the opportunity to. But that shouldn't be the go-to for someone to understand you. When you have your own coffee shop and you go to someone else's and you get attacked, then that's a choice. If you don't have one of your own, then in his opinion, that this wasn't an intelligent way to exist if you're a coffee drinker, period. So the racism to him, he taught us, it's not your problem. It's not your problem that they don't want you in that coffee shop. Because you can have a black coffee shop they don't want you in, too. You know, because we have our own issues, right, within our own culture. But the concept is, don't make it a problem for yourself. If someone calls you a name, someone discriminates against you, they're having the weakness issue. They're having the issue, and they use that concept to try to make you feel humiliated or to take over that situation and to make you feel smaller and more insecure. So it's not my problem. As you know, Carmen, I have two teenagers, and I teach them that going to school and being around their friends and around other people. Don't make it your problem. You're going to hear things, you're going to see things in the movies, etc., that are going to be disturbing to you, or you're going to see things in books. Learn it, understand it, know how it works. Don't make it your problem, because once you dealt those cards and you play that hand, I think 9 times out of 10 you're going to lose the game. You're only going to win the game when you control what's in your hand, not what someone gives you. That's what Adam Clayton Powell said many, many years ago. What's in your hand? What's in your hand? What can you create? What are you going to make? What's going to be something that's going to work for you and for your family and for your ideas and for your art and for your investment? That was one of Adam Clayton Powell's most famous speeches. You know, what's in your hand? That's where it begins. That's where the ideas begin. And then you have to decide on how you want to deal with it. You know, you can go outside. You hear some people say it's raining outside, and jazz cats would say, "I'm walking between the raindrops." You know, I'm actually not getting wet. I'm walking between the raindrops. There's a beautiful. Someone sent it to me. This physicist sent this to me. There's something online where a guy puts a bunch of candles in a room, and maybe you've seen it, and he lets his cat go out of the room to walk towards him. And the cat looks at him and walks through all of the candles without stopping. Then he puts more candles in the room in all these different places, and there's no proper way to go. And a cat comes out of the room and looks at him and walks through the maze without ever looking at any of the candles. Then he fills the room with candles and lets the cat out of the room, and the cat walks. Each time the cat's like, what's the problem?
Right.
The cat isn't making the candles
the problem.
The cat just wants to get to the other side of the room.
And get the treat.
Beautiful metaphor that this scientist guy sent me, kind of as a joke, but also as a way to think about how you want to live, create, and think.
Right. Yeah, 100%. I just thank you for, really bringing that home, because I just feel like we all have the ability to choose whether or not we're going to buy into what somebody else thinks of us.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just refuse to buy into it, there is no power there. There's no power. They can't mess with your mind if you don't allow them to. So I think that's thank you, because that's what I felt, what you said. And it really,
for so many people watching, there's so many examples of ballerina dances that were too short, or that didn't have the right skin color. There's so many basketball players that didn't have this. There's so many scientists that never got into MIT or any of these kind of schools and developed great things. There's no formula for it. It all gets down to who you are and how you want to relate to game. Because 9 times out of 10, the brilliant people create lanes for themselves. Jimi Hendrix, Miles Davis, Charlie Parker, Tito Puente, Basquiat. You can go down the list of so many great poets and writers and painters that created their own lane. At the time before they were doing what they were doing, no one was doing it like that.
Right.
And then it became this like, boom, here it is. So I think for folks watching and young folks watching especially, you can't be afraid to choose your lane. And, Mauricio, you brought something up, and I wanted to add something to what you said and that's the failure piece. You have to embrace it. Mm-hmm. It's like somebody at the party you just got to dance with, or you got to hang out with, or you got to have a drink with. Yep. You can't make failure your enemy, because then you're going to be finished. You have to embrace it. And it's going to come more times than victories, without a doubt.
Yeah, there's more failure than success, period.
That ratio is not a friendly one,
no.
But it's a very effective one. And once you can accept it and figure out how you, I don't want to pump up somebody else's work, but and I know people have different opinions about Michael Jordan. I actually liked that Last Dance documentary, not because of his basketball ability and how great of an athlete he was. I like that documentary because he knew who he was. He was 100% clear on who he was and how much talent he had. And he had no problem reminding anybody who didn't know. Muhammad Ali was the same way, just with a lot more mouth. Or Jordan, they said it on the court. But when I look at people like Ali or someone like a Michael Jordan, I'm sorry, people were like, I didn't like he said this. I didn't get into people's personal life and what they were doing, but he has 6 rings. He has 6 championship rings. And you can do the math from there. Muhammad Ali won his title back 3 times. You can do the math from there. So that's my point about being sure of yourself and knowing who you are and getting down to your business of work. He had moments where he said, I lost the championship and I knew how we lost, and I woke up 9 o'clock in the morning the next day and went to the gym. He won championships. He hung out, he partied, smoked cigars. He woke up 9 o'clock in the morning the next day and went to the gym. There's the difference between, to me, people who know who they are, what they want, and people who don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's it resonates. Again, it's a common denominator in all of this, because whether it's business or whether it's you're running a business, it's the systems are all there. We're just doing a different type, and I agree. I mean, and some of the things you touched on, we can go another hour just on some of the things you hit on, because I mean, there are some things that can strike some nerves, and we can really go deep. But I agree with you 100%. I think that we've just been programmed that, you know, if we're not allowed into a certain place, well, we're going to raise hell and complain about it. Well, how about we go empower ourselves and go open up our own in our own community, or just go open up our own business and let that be a motivator. And that was really for me. It was, you know, as a young child growing up, not having enough, not being able to buy a pair of Jordans, made me empower myself to go hustle on the street, and not hustle, but go get my hustle, my work, find out, you know, what I did. And you know, for me, again, in the entertainment industry, not too many people can say they've had 25 years of nightlife experience under their belt. So I have that wisdom, and that's why I look at, you know, and some of the guys might have these bigger nightclubs, but they only last 2 to 3 years, maybe max. And yeah, they made a lot more, but it's the longevity. They burned themselves out. Whether, you know, they might have won in the short run, but I'll beat them in the long run. And because I have that marathon mentality, I'm like, you can keep going, but you know, or you might win this one, but I'm gonna win this war. So, and through failure, you know, also you just always better yourself. What is the lessons you learn from the failure? Because there's lessons learned from all of that. And you know, and again, you touched something that we might have to do a second
I
a part
think
two on this interview. I'll literally we'll go another hour nonstop. So, but Will, thank you very much. And there was one last question.
Sure.
I'll shorten the question. I think if anything, it's what, you know, to the last words, you know, to empower people. What are your words of wisdom that you would share with our audience tonight, and empower them?
Words of wisdom. Wow.
The final words, because you know there were so many before this.
Right. No, I just, I mean, maybe you know, there's a phrase, there's a mantra that you have, there's something that, you know, you repeat in yourself. I know I have a few of them in my mind, but you know, obviously.
Carmen has heard me say probably a million times, life is beautiful every day. And that's the one that the band gets tired of me saying it, because sometimes they wake up and they'll say, no, it's not, and look at what's going on out here. And that's real. There's a lot of horrifying things happening right now. But it's beautiful in that we can all get up, even if the three of us got on the phone one day and we're pissed off at what's happening politically in our country, and we just all sit down and have a chat about it. That's being beautiful, rather than us not being able to have that opportunity. So I don't mean it's beautiful like every day you get an expensive glass of wine and you get.
Well, I don't mind expensive wine in a glass if I'm not paying for it.
You know, there's that too. But,
I'll take it.
You know, it's not that I don't want that, but basically, for me, I say that phrase to people to remind them and myself, man, to basically to dig. And not everything is on the surface. And you can't be afraid of, you know, watch the fear piece. It's a dangerous piece to live by, to have that in your system. You gotta watch the fear piece. And if you don't know how to get a gauge on it, try to look at the people that you admire. Whether it's a politician, or it's someone in your family, it's a clergyman or clergywoman, or it's your neighbor. Try to see what it is about that person. I tell you, man, I love reading autobiographies because I learned so much more about people that I admire that I had no idea. People had mental conditions. People were orphans. People grew up against all of these odds, and they became these folks. So, to the young folks and to people in the audience, you know, research is important. It's a very important part of being a human being, not just being an artist, just being a human being. Research is important. Talk to your parents, talk to your grandparents, talk to the neighbor that you don't think knows anything. They may want to do it. And Mauricio, I learned from a lot of. You talk about the street. You know, I learned from a lot of street dudes, and I was never into that culture, but I was fascinated by those guys because they just knew so much, and they were helpful to me, and they taught me not to be afraid of anything. And they told me, "I'm doing this. You never do that, and you know, stick to your instrument or whatever it is." So, but the conversations, I could go to those guys and say, "Hey, man," and it was always they put down whatever they were doing, and they were dealing. Okay, Will, here's the facts, 1 to 10. So communication's important. Fearless piece you have to get rid of. It can't be, if you try, whether it's sitting down with a class or it's meditating, or you have to eliminate that, because that's the first weapon people use against you, is to make you feel afraid. And then when you become afraid, you kind of, you don't use all of your talents correctly. There's a great book that I've read 5 or 6 times. It's called The Art of War.
Oh, I love that book.
Great book.
Sun Tzu, yeah.
Yep. And one of the metaphors that was the most shocking to me was never corner your opponent in the I'm paraphrasing, in a situation where they don't have a choice.
That's right. Woo!
Because
that's
you
powerful.
Don't know what that person is going to do when they don't have a choice. You think you have them cornered, and you think you have the better hand, but someone who doesn't have a choice may do something you never, ever, ever would think they would do. So allow them that little escape area, so they have something to think about afterwards, and so do you. If that's that situation or entity. That was something that I read in the book that was like, wow.
I apply that in business. You don't put people in a box, because if you put them in a box, it becomes, the negotiation becomes hostile, and you're not going to get what you're trying to accomplish. So, there's another book I just started today. Actually, it's called "Can't Hurt Me" by David Goggins. This guy is an amazing guy. He from Buffalo, up in Buffalo, East Coast, and you might want to look that one. "Can't Hurt Me" by David Goggins. That is some deep stuff. I mean, it's deep.
I'm gonna send you guys one for your audience to read. And I know we gotta go, so I can't grab it because I have it in the other
No,
one.
we don't have to go. We're just trying to remind
you. No, I'm okay. And Carmen, whenever I'm in San Francisco, Carmen comes to the shows, and we begin our hang at 1:30 in the morning, eating. It's great to have really lovely friends who love to eat, because I love to eat. So it's one of those things. But I want to get this book, but it's the working title is One. I'm going to get the book, so you guys get the title, but I especially want your younger audience to read it, because basically the concept gets down to, Mauricio and Carmen. When you get up in the morning, what's the 10 things you have to do to be Carmen today? Mauricio, what's the 10 things you have to do? And then at the end of the book, it gets down to, it's like a pyramid. It starts at, okay, what's the one thing you need to do, Carmen, to be Carmen today?
Yep.
And then as you write the things down and you eliminate them, your priorities change.
Yeah,
you don't get up in the morning with the scrambled eggs. I got to do laundry, but I got to focus, but I got to practice, and I got a vocal lesson, but I got to do ballet, but hang on, I got yoga class, and now I got to drink a green shake, and then I'm going to go down here and you do the gym, but wait a minute, but my friend's calling me, we're going to go have some beers on Friday night. Like, that's like the scrambled eggs vibe. And to get to your goal, you have to have some kind of a situation. So I cherish this book. I go over it chapter by chapter by chapter. It's a beautiful thing, and I want to.
Thank you. Will, if you want, you can join our Facebook group page, Milagro.
I will.
Yeah, and then you can post that. That'd be fantastic.
Thank you. That's something, please, folks out there. I can't recommend. You talk about the wisdom piece in closing. I like to close with that, because that's something that I really is very helpful and very healing to people, because you're going to discover things about yourself that you can overcome for you to become the person that you really want to be.
Right, exactly. Well,
amen.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. You and I have done this before on a podcast. I have to say, this is much more fun that I get to see your beautiful face.
Thank you. Yours as well. Thank you so much, Carmen. We got to do more. We talk about it a lot, and you should host some more things, because Mauricio, I've had some late night dinners with Carmen, and I felt like I was on the Carmen Milagro show. I was on the couch with the microphone. We had these heavy things about private school and what we were dealing with at school, and she asked really, I felt pertinent questions about life. So it's always great. And Mauricio, it's great to hang out with you, man. You have my contact information.
Thank you.
You're in Silicon Valley now. I have a couple of friends out there as well. If I get out that way, I'll give you a bell. If I'm playing anywhere in town, man, you're always welcome to.
I'm going to send you a copy of my book too. I want you to read it. I want to share my story with you, and it's called Smoke and Mirrors, and it talks about nightlife and it, the rise and fall. Yeah, it's in. I actually have a copy right here. I'll show you. I was prepared. Right here, Smoke and Mirrors, and the mirror ball says it all. So there's just we have so much in common. I mean, it's just old school, new school, whatever school. Music is universal, and entertainment is universal. I love all music from around the world, and I think that it's important, and I think right now it's more important that we're doing these types of shows and that we're sharing our message, because the world needs to hear our message now. Before it was so limited, and now you don't have to wait to be a movie star to be. You know what? Start your show, start promoting, start putting your grind into it, and just like anything, 10,000 hours later, I'm going to be a YouTube sensation or some kind of, it's got to happen, and we got to start. Those that have started now during this downtime are going to benefit. Those that are sleeping at the wheel waiting for someone to resolve their problems, they're the ones that are the ones that are complaining. They're the ones that are, that are not taking that action. So I had a guest on my show. I do one every Wednesday. I had Stedman Graham on my show, and he said something very important on the show. And he said, equality is not given, it's earned. Everyone has the same amount of hours we all have the same amount of hours. It's just, what do we do with our time? And that it really resonates, and we have to, it's a continued reminder. We got to continue to remind ourselves, what are we doing with our time? When we wake up, it's the first thing are we looking for is that drama, that the social media, or what are we doing with our time? First thing I do is thank God that I woke up again, and then I start my routine of my health and all that other. I do my checkpoints. I'm like, all right, let's go and get the day started. And those are my constant routines, and that has allowed me to become the successful person that I want to be, and all the good things that I continue to want to strive for. So you being as a musician, you got to wake up every morning or every day and continue to practice your art so that you can continue to be the excellent artist that you are today. So, and then Carmen at the same time too, everyone, again, that's why we're in this space. And I think that it's important that we continue to share our message with the world so that people learn, hopefully.
Right. Well, I mean, that's what we're trying to do, Will. And, again, thank you so much for spending so much time with us. The idea of the show, it's in its simplest form, is to try to share our resources and our knowledge, and to bring other people on who have all this incredible wisdom to share with people that are maybe going through a tough time, or they're trying to start a business, or they're trying to find the artist in them, and in themselves. And I think when you do something, and you and I have talked about this many, many times, you do something out of a pure intention of love. Sometimes, right? Sometimes people look at that, oh, you're so nice, you're so this, and they think that you're weak.
That's true.
You and I know very well that is not the case. Not for Mr. Bronx and not for Miss San Francisco. I know that, and certainly not for Mr. Silicon Valley over there. So I think, again, the intention is to try to be a place where people can learn different things, and we share our knowledge and we share our resources. That really, at the end of the day, it's we're trying to help people. And if it blows up and we get whatever sponsors and all that, fantastic. But the core of this show, whether we continue for the next 10 years or we stop next week, the core is to help at least someone every time that they tune in.
Yep. Well, congratulations. When I first heard about the show, I know how positive you are. It's a pleasure to be on there. I went online and saw it. I think it's an important time. So you bring up the downtime piece. COVID has a really dark side, and I think it also has an academic side to it. And we haven't been shut down for years. Some of us never. We've been confined, and we have to think about stuff. And then there's the dark side of not being able to see loved ones, maybe even your own parents, or see people who are ill and who are sick, or people who passed away. It's been a very interesting, universal, spiritual time for all human beings all over the world. What's happening, and it's not over. So if we can get a good gander, as you mentioned, of what's happening to us right now, and capitalize on it. And some people that are sleeping at the wheel, they're going to hit the wall fairly soon. I'm going to give them credit. It's not too much reckless driving that can happen now, because I think culturally, just things are coming into fruition. That onion is being peeled, and we're starting to really see what was ignored, what the reality of things are, and we're starting to look at ourselves. And I love the young people that are out and really pushing the envelope. I'm totally not for any type of violence, but I am for truth, and I am for the reality of things in life. I love seeing the energy of this, and that we as human beings, forget about being Americans or Latinx or African, we as human beings have an amazing opportunity. It's not going to be an easy turnaround in the game. We're kind of at the 50-yard line of this game right now, and it's going to be, we're right there now. We can blow it and get a yellow card, a flag, and go back 20 yards, or we can make the strategy of realizing how we got to the 50 yards and how do we want to get to the end zone. And that's going to require planning for where we have to go and research on how we got here. Those two things come together. Not for everyone. Everyone's not going to like it. It's not going to be comfortable. Change never is. And it's going to require, for some people, tightening of the bolts, for some people, loosening of the bolts.
Right.
And if you never did it before, prepare yourself as much as possible. That's kind of really where we're heading. So I think I'm optimistic about it. It's positive. It won't be quick, but if we can take the right steps, the inertia, the snowball will lead the mountain with the right vibe. So as it expands and it starts to get big, it just becomes something that we all become a part of, and not something that just rolls down the hill and smashes the whole village. So that's my concept on it. I'll leave on that note.
No wise words. Thank you both. Thank you, everyone. I know that I did not get to reply to a single comment because.
Oh wow! Okay, I saw.
I know.
So thank you for the comment. I saw a few.
Yes. Thank you to everybody who stayed with us. I will go back in and try to reply and engage in that. Sometimes I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. Yeah, but it is what it is. I had an amazing time. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Mauricio. To everyone who stayed with us, and I hope that you have been able to learn a little bit about who we are as human beings and the conversations that we can have. And if that helps anyone in any way, then I'm very excited. We will be back next week, and I hope that, Will, you will come back. I know some people might be disappointed because we really didn't talk about your drumming and the band and the music. Next time. Okay. Tell the guys I said hi. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you next Tuesday, 7 o'clock.
Next time we're doing that, we're gonna have you play some drums with us. You just set up your drums and go, acoustic style with us. I mean, that. Hey,
why not?
There's no rules here. We're making our own rules. We're not censored by anybody. We don't have a time limit. I mean, if you're set up, let's go for a jam right now. That's the way we got to do it. So I think we got.
Mauricio, I was trying to avoid the studio because I just didn't want to have I didn't want you guys to see my Toyland lab.
I would have been like, let's play some of that. Yeah.
The drum museum exploded down there, but the stuff everywhere, and it's a gorgeous mess. And next time I'll put the camera right in the middle of the gorgeous mess. We'll sit on the floor, and you guys can say, "Well, what's that thing over there? Play that thing over there. Where's that from?"
That's awesome. I love it. Oh, that's great. Okay, good.
Well, it was a pleasure. It was an honor to be here with you, to speak with you. And Carmen, I'll let you wrap it up. Will, thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I'm gonna buy the book. So no, dude. I'm a musician. Trust me. We all know about payment and royalties. So I want to contribute.
That's another conversation we're gonna have then. Man,
I want to contribute to your payment and royalties fund. So send me the title. I'll buy it. When I come out there, you'll sign it. How's that?
Perfect. Sounds good. Deal.
Great.
All right.
Thank you so much. Will. Thank you, everyone. Next week, we have a surprise guest on my birthday, but it's a surprise for you, Mauricio, so that should be fun.
Nice.
He's like, what?
Yeah.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
I love you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. Take care.